Hey everybody, what's going on? Rob Cesternino back here for week 4 of Tough as Nails season 2, and very excited to talk about a night on the farm on Tough as Nails. You won't believe everything we have to talk about here today as we talk about last night's episode. It's gonna be a sheep show, of course. Very excited to have back with us this week after a week off the job. Here's the great Jessica Liese. Jess, it's time to go to work.
Yeah, I gotta say, Rob and Mike, I'm so sorry that I missed last week.
Wrong. I hit the wrong cue. Sorry. I wanted.
Can I talk yet?
Yeah, sorry.
I was gonna say, Rob and Mike, I'm really sorry I missed last week. And I'm feeling really sheepish about it.
Yes, good. Well done. All right, keep it going, Mike.
Listen, Jess, you can't pull the wool over our eyes. I know exactly what you were doing last week. You were on the farm making poop angels. We can smell it on you, Liese.
Yes.
Is this the equivalent of the bell now? Are we doing the whistle instead of the
Time
bell?
to go to work.
Tough as Nails?
It's the Tough as Nails bell.
Okay. All right. So here we are after 4 episodes of Tough as Nails. Talking about Angel eliminated from the individual competition, but don't worry. He's still going to be part of the team competition. We will talk about it all. How's everybody doing? Good?
Doing well. Yeah. Jess, I'd love to hear from you about, obviously, a lot of question marks around last week. This felt like the first week we were actually able to properly get into Tough as Nails.
Yeah.
Given
Mike,
all
I
the
told you
weirdness
that
that's happened.
Jess needed a week off from the show last week. That was it.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess now that you've brought the normality back, Jess, I know that Rob and I tried to parse through everything from the construction site. Was there anything you wanted to add or any thoughts you had about everything that happened last week?
I mean, honestly, I think you both covered it admirably, and there was nothing in there that I felt like you had missed.
Mm-hmm.
I too am puzzled by the use of aggregate this season. Is big aggregate
No aggregate
paying?
last night.
Yeah, no aggregate last night that we know of.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like big aggregate is like putting some money in behind the scenes.
Yeah. I will also say that the other night, Mike Bloom and I got together to talk about today is March 4th, the kickoff of Paramount Plus, and we did another one of our Brant Steele simulations where the stars, we put everybody from the Super Bowl commercial, the stars of CBS versus a tribe of the stars of Viacom, and we loaded it all into the Brant Steele simulator, and people are saying that one of the best Brant Steeles ever.
Though
I listened to it.
It might have been a little bit better if Phil Keoghan was in those commercials and been able to take part as a result.
Yeah, we'll find out why Phil wasn't asked to hike up the mountain.
We don't know. He wasn't asked.
Yeah,
Rob.
maybe he did. Yeah, maybe he did.
Maybe he big
declined.
timed them. Yeah.
All right. Tough as Nails. Last night we were all on the farm, and we had the Dirty Hands, and of course the Savage Crew back at it again, and hay bales.
Yeah. I guess if aggregate is season 2 and pea gravel is season 1, I guess hay bales are sort of the connector between the two seasons, right? Because we had the epic Lee versus Michelle stack the hay bales overtime challenge. Now they just spread it out across a football field.
Well, I just watched Survivor Ghost Island this week on the top 40 all-time season countdown. I was hoping that Phil would say, like, this hay bale right here, Roofer Lee. If he would have gotten it stacked, he could have beat Michelle in the overtime in season 1.
Well, what is the hay bale? What does it mature into?
It matured into like 100 hay bales, right?
Wow,
it's matured into that Ford F-150 right over there.
A hay bale that turns into a truck.
Became a car. Yeah.
I feel like I saw a cartoon about this in the 80s.
Yeah. So yeah, we had our team competition, which was the hay bales. We had our individual competition, which was the sheep, which was I would say like very fun. I thought that was the highlight of the episode, and then the overtime with Freight Train versus Angel, and then I have to say that the overtime Angel going out. I thought that you just like the last overtime that we got to see after last week, skipping the OT. The OTs have been very emotional this season, and I don't even remember feeling that way really in the overtimes in season 1. But I don't know what it is about this group, and maybe it's because they've shot during COVID, and it's like it's everybody is like very emotional about things. But I don't know. Did you feel that the players and even myself did you feel more like emotional stakes in the overtime this week?
Well, this is something I've been formulating in my head, in the absence of being on this podcast to talk about it with the two of you, and in the absence of being able to ask Phil about it. I've been formulating in my head some sort of comparisons and contrasts to how the story was being told last season. And one of the main things that I have been observing is that there's a lot more pathos this season and a lot more leaning into the idea of somebody needing the money. And I think they touched on it last season, but Angel's story in particular, they're really milking it for tragedy in a way that they really, I don't know if milking it for tragedy feels cynical, but they are talking more about how hard his life is in a way that I think last season they didn't talk about how hard people's lives were in these jobs. They said, they work hard, but they really love what they do. And this feels more like your regular garden variety shows where people go on the reality show saying, I'm in this to win the money so I can help my family. And that's a big difference for me. And I think Angel is kind of is the focal point of this, because his entire story so far has been that he does work very hard, but he does not, he is not adequately compensated for it. And he's had a rough upbringing, and his family is scattered to the four winds. And being on the show is going to change his life. I feel like previously Tough as Nails' central message was not being on this show is going to change your life. And I have to wonder what the decision was. How did they come to the decision to start leaning into that a little harder? Because I think last season we did talk about, and I can't remember if it was on the show itself or if Phil just mentioned it to us. I know that there was a lot of talk about somebody talking about their job and then mentioning they're not working with a union, and then their teammates saying, you got to get a union job. We will help you find a union job. This is what you need to be doing instead. I don't remember it being this heavily leaned on. And I hope that the eventual outcome of this is like somebody gets Angel into a union and gets him a good union job so he can have benefits and, afford to go see his family more often.
Now, let me just ask you about, it's a very, very interesting idea. Do you feel like is that the overall story of all the contestants, or is that just Angel's story, do you feel like?
It's mostly, up to now, it's just Angel. I think we've heard, but he's been the star. Like the last 3 episodes, we've seen so much Angel. I think whenever we're not actually
Not a
looking
manure
at,
angel. That's different.
right, right. That's a completely different thing. Stop putting that image in my head.
we just repeat it, Jess.
Blame
I know.
Sally.
We
Sally
didn't
put that
make it
image
up.
in there.
I know. Okay. All right, but
She grew up on a farm.
Yeah, I don't think they really do that on
Near a farm.
farms. Yeah, she grew up near a farm. I don't think people that live on farms do that.
No, she was in the Amish country. I don't know what the Amish were doing, but it certainly wasn't poop angels.
Yeah, it sure feels like that's not an Amish thing. I've never heard that.
But so I will say that I don't know if it necessarily comes from the show or if that's Angel's story, because I feel like that even Freight Train didn't want to put the like figurative nail in his coffin by putting the nail in the horseshoe. It was like Freight Train had mixed feelings about knocking Angel out of the competition.
Yeah, but we also spent some time on Freight Train and him talking about like how this is going to change his life too. And it does seem like this is sort of a pivot when it comes to what the show is really about. But I do think it's very on brand for somebody on Tough as Nails to debate throwing a competition so that someone who needs it more could stay in. That does seem very much like the camaraderie we saw last season and this season.
Yeah,
well, also,
especially with the element that they could stay in too,
yeah,
right? It's not Angel saying like, oh, I can make more money. I can make $2,200 a week. It's not like I'm out of the competition. I agree with Jess to definitely to a certain extent. I feel like season 1, in terms of arduousness, was more focused occupationally, right? You have Phil being like, show us all the calluses on your hands. Look at all the work you do every day in and day out, working multiple hours a day to, make America run. And I think this season is a bit more about personal arduousness. Even outside of the freight train and the angel stuff, you have someone like Sarah, right, who's a type 1 diabetic. And we hear a lot about how I'm doing this to show that, like, just because you have this disease does not necessarily mean that you're not as tough as anyone else. I'm sure we'll find out more stuff about these people as we go along. I'm not sure if that's a difference in an editorial thing, or if it's just that the contestants that they happen to bring on happen to have obviously the most interesting stories. That's a reason why they're cast. And so someone like Angel's story really peaks in that regard. But I completely agree with an earlier statement. I was stunned that Angel went here, because he was, I think, one of the big POV characters. And even if you're reading the tough as nails Edgic and you're looking at like Scott and Knuckles as the bigger winner candidates, you would think that Angel would be like a sentimental favorite to at least go pretty far, not, even though he's still in the competition, become the third person to leave the game proper.
The third person to leave the competition last season was Roofer Lee.
Yeah, but Roofer Lee wasn't getting like monologues talking about his life story. Roofer Lee was there for the one.
Roofer Lee doesn't talk in monologues, Mike.
Yeah. I mean, I thought honestly, it felt to me very much like it felt to me like the pre-merge boot edit to me. To borrow a term from a previous show that we have covered.
We don't talk about tribes on this show, Jess.
We do not.
Yeah.
We do not.
Yeah.
It really felt to me like they were giving you a lot of his story early on because there may be fewer opportunities to tell it later on down the line.
Are you saying
it's like the personal story bump, Mike? It's the personal story bump.
Yeah. Are you saying that we have our fallen angel?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Like, I feel like that both of these episodes, I feel like that we had an elimination. Obviously, I feel like that the Tara and Swifty battle were extenuating circumstances with Tara's injury, and Swifty also. Like, I mean, that was super dramatic. Like, I just like I don't remember feeling as like when these two people, like when it was like with all due respect to like young versus whoever else in like the various different overtimes in season 1. Like it didn't seem like that it was like as with as much gravitas to like knock somebody out of the competition.
I think that also has to do with Angel the person, who I would say out of all 24 contestants we've experienced so far in Tough as Nails canon, I think he is the one who wears the heart on his sleeve the most, right? He is the one who is hustling from the very first toot of that work whistle until, his team finally wins. Phil consistently says he's a workhorse. He's constantly hustling. He never slows down. That ends up, ironically enough, screwing him over in the overtime. So I think he was also like very beloved amongst the cast as well. Rob, I do think you have an interesting point about the pandemic, but I don't know if that's necessarily about like an interpersonal perspective and maybe more of an occupational thing, right? I can imagine certainly, much like, there have been so many people that like in business reality shows say, oh, when the recession hit, this happened, and so I really need the money. I could certainly imagine these people who, while their jobs are not exactly deemed inessential, Selly, for instance, I'm sure there are certainly hardships they've experienced the past year as a result of the pandemic. There are more stakes involved of getting that money, because if you have found yourself paying a bit more out of pocket for things based on opportunities that have dried up due to the pandemic, then yeah, every dollar does count that makes its way back into your pocket.
Yeah. I enjoyed the blacksmith challenge for the OT. I didn't think they were going to be getting into blacksmith ing. Jess, what's the right word?
I think it is smithing, Rob.
Yes.
I think here's my favorite part of it. They didn't really explain how to do the challenge. Phil handed him a book and said RTFM, and I thought that was wonderful. And it doesn't make for the best TV, but I think it makes much better TV than Phil sitting there like talking you through every single piece of the process.
I also think that Angel like was well defined in that Angel, he's fast and like he's strong, but he like doesn't stop to think, and you really saw that come to light
He's a boxer. It's a boxer thing. You come in full tilt, 100% at a sprint, and you do that sprint until the round is over. And it's he's very, very good for those types of tasks. But anything that's more methodical where you have to stop and think, like that's not how you operate when you're boxing.
Yeah.
So it comes down to being detail oriented, ironically enough, in this. I do wonder with the book, because we don't see them go to it. Do you think they actually went to it? Did they decide, like, okay, let's hunker down for some study time and read through this, like, loose leaf moleskin that Phil left around about all the details of how to make a horseshoe? Or did, true to Angel's motto, he'd be like, I think I figured it out. If it's glowy, you hit it. That's what I do.
Yeah. And then Freight Train, I think he got like the blacksmith look. Like,
I feel like he does sort of look like an extra out of like Game of Thrones, right? Just grow his beard a little bit longer, and he could really fit in amongst the Vikings.
Yeah, so it seemed like that he kind of had it down. And then Angel, I was worried Angel was gonna hurt himself. Like he was just like on tilt, like going crazy with it's like I thought he was gonna like pick up the horseshoe off the ground, but like without even using the tongs.
Yeah, it seemed like we were really primed for. Oh, and you saw Phil like admonish him because he's slamming
like,
things
Angel,
around.
slow down.
Yeah, don't slam the forge, Angel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could have seen like an incredibly unlucky cast of Toughest Nails where they just keep dropping like flies, despite the fact that the show prevents you from actively doing so. It's like the Oompa Loompas.
Yeah. Be careful, Angel.
Yeah, at a certain point, you have to recalibrate your metric for toughness so you stop dropping your contestants.
Yeah. And so Freight Train is able to move on. He said that his goal a couple of weeks ago was to stay out of the overtimes, but I feel like that this was like even though it was dangerous, I feel like this was one of the less like physically punishing OTs that we've had.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, I do kind of feel for both Freight Train and Angel here. Rob, I know you said that the sheep was the highlight of the episode. I actually wasn't a big fan of it.
I know why.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, as they said, it really wasn't an individual challenge. It was a team challenge until the last 15 seconds. And then it's, okay, now we got to get the sheep. It was really oddly structured.
It's like one of those, it's like those Amazing Race challenges where 3 teams decide to quit at the same time. And then they say, we're just going to book it for the finish line.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I just thought that it was that the teams worked together, but I feel like it was designed to be like a individual working in pairs.
They sort of broke the challenge.
They sort of like
thing,
they all partnered together. Phil, are you there? Are you able to hear us?
I can hear you.
Yes,
I
can hear you. Yes, we're joined here by the host, co-creator, executive producer, Toughest Nails, Phil Keoghan. Phil, how are you?
I'm feeling very sheepish this morning.
Yes.
Already used it.
You already have. I knew you would do that.
And I got that one too, Phil.
Oh, you got that one too.
Keep going through your list. Rattle your dags.
Yes.
I feel rattled to my fiber. The core of my fiber. No, that didn't work. Okay, listen. The good news is, where's the plaid shirt, Jesse? Where's the plaid shirt?
Do you want me to go get one?
I think just to kick things off nicely would be. Do you have a plaid shirt?
Yes,
because
I'll be right back.
Yeah,
I don't want you to be left out.
Yeah, nobody's ever come in and requested that we have a wardrobe change on the podcast to get it. But you're big on like everybody's in their uniform.
That's true.
Sort of like what Toughest Nails is all about.
Yeah, and listen, if we're gonna plaid, let's all plaid out together. Let's be very, very plaid that we are together.
Yes.
How are you guys? Oh, look at this. This is great.
Here we go.
This is I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. Da-dun-da-da-dun, and I walk all day.
It's my favorite song.
Have you got high heels upon your feet?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a pandemic, Phil. Nobody's wearing high heels.
Okay. Because I have my high heels on, all right? And there's nothing wrong with that.
Or do you have your high horseshoes on?
I got to get off my high horse and put some new shoes on them. So trotting along. So how are you guys?
Yeah, we're doing great. We're just talking about last night's show, Phil.
Well, were you happy? Did you like it? What did you think?
Well, we were just talking about the Angel's arc, and
Archangel.
The
Yeah,
archangel.
the archangel, yeah, and him going out, and part of his story was that what he could have done with the money had he won the grand prize, and how badly he needed that, and if that was something that was like more highlighted this season in terms of something that you want to show of all of the contestants, or that's something that's sort of like individual to Angel's story.
Well, I think it was just, I think one of the more powerful bites that I remember us putting in there was when he said, he knows what it's like to go to school and have his ankles showing because he can't afford to have pants that fit properly.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of people struggling out there, a lot of people who can connect and associate with the struggles that someone like Angel is going through. And, the union chat I thought was really interesting. And it's very topical right now with regards to the minimum wage discussion that's happening.
Mhm.
So, it was that's his story. I mean, whether that's not necessarily something that will come up every season, but it's his story. So it was something we definitely wanted to highlight.
Yeah.
Have
Well,
we
Phil,
lost
I couldn't-
Michael?
Yeah, that he'll pop back.
He'll be back.
Yeah.
Does
He
he do
always
that?
comes
Does he
back.
just disappear from time to time? And just I know what it is. He's going to get a better plaid shirt. That's what it is. Oh,
Is that what it is? Okay.
here he is.
All right.
Sorry, I had to go get my grill in to know that I was really ready for this.
Yes,
Oh,
that
sure,
Mike
yes.
Mike is ready to go once he has his grill popped in.
That was
bling.
another thing.
Yeah.
Did you guys get that whole grill thing? Like again, it was just a cultural thing that we felt was interesting. I didn't really know too much about the significance of the grill, and so again, just another way of layering in some information about these essential workers, these working class people on our show who maybe can open our eyes up to a different way of thinking and a different life, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thought it was interesting that Scott had the advantage this week, and we got to see that Scott got to pick the teams, and I thought that everything was seemed fine, but then he highlighted, okay, at the end, all right, Freight Train and Angel, I just, I really want to put you two into the overtime, and I wasn't sure exactly one, why he said that, and two, was he feeling like that Freight Train was going to slow down Angel? Was that why he ended up doing making the teams in that way?
No, I just think that he knew it was going to be a lucky dip. It was one of those challenges where there was a lot of luck involved. And he probably knew that everybody was going to be out of their element. And so he thought what would be great is if I put them together, maybe there'll be because Angel and Freight Train are quite different in terms of their approaches. So I think he probably thought that somehow wouldn't work. And if you look at the way it happened, that's exactly what happened. Like Erida and Zeus have a similar sort of way of thinking. They're both quite Zen-like. They're quite calm, and they talk to themselves and believe in themselves. And Freight Train is very methodical, logical. He likes to go through the steps of doing things. And Angel can sometimes get flustered. So I think he thought that there was some potential for things to go wrong between them, which ultimately ended up happening.
Yeah, I can imagine it's the equivalent of like Rob and in Big Brother when you have the knockout competition and you put two people that you want at least one of them gone up against each other. I did find it interesting though, because I do feel like up to this point, narratively speaking, we haven't really gleaned a sense as to who's looking out for who as competition. I know last year it was really a lot about Danny and Murph talking up each other in confessional. Whereas this season, that really isn't necessarily the case. Maybe it's because of all the stuff that's been happening, outside of the show that maybe that sort of distracted people. So it was interesting to hear from Scott, who I think this is the first time this season that someone has said, I think Angel's a threat. I feel like Freight Train's a threat. If I put them together, one of them's guaranteed to go home or, be eliminated from the individual competition. And that makes things much easier for me.
Yeah, I thought it was a smart move. And look, just a little inside baseball on this. Angel and Sarah had the highest brutal truth test scores their work rate, Sarah and Angel's work rate is above and beyond anybody else there. Now we have some people who are very close aerobically in terms of their endurance. Like Knuckles had a very, very high score. But I think Scott was like looking at the workload that Angel, has been getting through. I mean, this guy Angel does not slow down. I mean, he will literally work all day, and you're going to see that throughout the rest of the season. This guy his work rate is unbelievable. When he first applied, he was telling us about how he does these jobs where people love hiring him and his team because they literally will cut the estimates in half because of the speed at which they can work. He is ripped, and he's been a boxer in his life, so he knows what it's like to push himself to the breaking point physically. But I think Scott saw a weakness in him with regards to getting flustered when he gets frustrated, and I think he saw Angel as maybe his biggest physical threat. And saw an opportunity to do something about it, and knew that Sarah had that great physical ability, so wanted to pull her onto his team, and also know that Sarah is very calm under pressure. So he's got maybe the fittest person in Sarah, who's also calm under pressure on his side, and then he puts the person who's his biggest physical threat in Angel with somebody who has a completely different approach to everything, and figured maybe something will go wrong. And it did.
I did find it interesting that, last season when Murph was given a similar power, he really went inter-team, right? He made sure that every single Dirty Hands person had a Savage Crew partner. I find it interesting here that Scott picks Sarah, obviously, and basically has everyone stick to their own respective teams, with the exception of Selly and Knuckles. Now, I don't know if there was some strategy involved in that, but I think that's just also a sign of the various ways you can tackle this type of advantage. And I'm assuming as more advantages are going to show up over the course of the season, like they did last season, it really just goes to prove that depending on who has their hands on these advantages, dirty hands, if you will, they can really use it however they want to, whether to their actual strategic merit or not.
Yeah, and I think that Murph was in quite a different situation. He knew that with Danny, he had someone super strong. He's sort of like guaranteeing a win. It was a physical challenge. It required some smarts in terms of making the connections with the irrigation pipes. So he sort of figured like he had it in the bag with Danny because he knew he was going to work hard. He knew he had it. So I think he was super confident. And at that point, he kind of played the whole, like, I don't think he felt threatened by anybody else apart from Danny, and he was pulling Danny across with him to guarantee himself the win. And then I think in the way that Murph thinks is Murph was like, all right, now I'm going to be super fair. And I'm just going to like put these pairs up together and match people together from opposite teams. So I think Scott was way more calculated. There's no doubt about it.
There's a game theory element there where you want to make sure that you're protecting your own team. And
yes,
I think we talked about this last season where pairing people from opposite teams always ensures that you don't have a situation where two people from your team are going up against each other at the end.
Yes, absolutely. And I also wondered whether part of it too was Scott was thinking about the team by putting, if he thought that things were going to go wrong with Freight Train and Angel, they would have to spend more, and that they were going to use up more energy. Then they would have to go to overtime. Then he didn't know what that was exactly, but he figured, that will tire out two people who are very important to Dirty Hands. So then that gives us an advantage in the team competition as well. So I think he was doing a lot of thinking. Sorry.
I'm not sure, maybe Scott was playing 5D chess on this, but he's also the same guy who thought to split the teams up during the team competition. So maybe not.
I don't understand that. So Savage Crew loses the trap challenge on the boat by saying, okay, by keeping one person behind, that's one less person that can be stacking the traps. Cut to 2 challenges later, Scott says, I got it. take nearly half the team, put it in a place where they're going to stand around and wait for a good portion of time.
Right.
I always love the strategies that come out, but it was really interesting that despite losing for basically the exact same reason last time they lost, Savage Crew again loses for the exact same reason.
The thing that shocked me was that he was presenting it like it was emergent strategy, like nobody had ever thought about it before. And it's like, no, you thought about it 2 episodes ago and it didn't work,
Right.
and you're doing it again.
Well, to be fair, the instinct, I think, from a lot of people, including Knuckles, if you remember, Knuckles pushed back against Zeus. Zeus, he had a plan. He figured, no. We're not having anybody, we're not going to run the risk of anybody being back at the barn with nothing to do. We're going to stick together as a team and do this in a linear fashion. We pick up, we drive over, we unload, we go back, we pick up, we drive over, we unload. And so Knuckles had an instinct like, yeah, but shouldn't some of us stay? We'll finish this while you guys go get more. And then by the time you get back, we'll be done with this. But then you run the risk of running out of hay bales to stack, right? As happened with, but I love that moment where Meryl says to Scott, because they've got such a great relationship, like, sometimes you're really, really smart. You really are really smart. And they're almost like, we got this in the barn, this is no trouble at all. And of course they're standing there and Scott's like, shoot, I think we messed this up.
Well, here's my question. How far was it from the hay bale area to the barn? Could you finish stacking your bales and then jog back and help people at the truck? Or is that way too far, and would that gas everybody out?
I'm going to say it was at least a half a mile, but it might have been more. So I think by the time they ran over there, they would have been completely and utterly tapped. And then they wouldn't have been able to get on and do anything. And then, no. And it was sort of, I think they also couldn't tell from the distance how far through the teams were. Like, did they have a third to go, a half to go, how far through were they? Were they going to run over and there was going to just be a waste of time? So I think they were sort of caught between a hay bale and a barn, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we go back to overtime for a second? Because we speculated about this before you came on. You had the book, the guide to how to make a horseshoe. Did these two guys actually refer to it before they went into the challenge? Did they consult back to it if they were struggling? Did the book actually, play a part in the overtime challenge proper?
The book was a backup to us giving them instruction on how to use the tools. So we showed them, this is how you pick up the metal. This is how you put it in the forge. This is how you use the heat. This is, we explained to them that when it's bright and orange like that, that's more pliable. We went through all the basics that were in the book. So everything that was in the book was everything that was explained to them before we started. The book was a backup. I notice online sometimes people go, I can't believe you didn't tell people how to do that, how to drive a bulldozer. It's like, well, you're making the assumption, like, we're not going to make a television show about, okay, everybody jump in your bulldozers. We're going to show, okay, everybody push your left lever forward and backwards and left. I mean, come on. I mean, so this one guy who's like, I can't believe you didn't give them any instruction. And I was like, well, what makes you assume that we didn't? And by the way, of the 9 first timers, the spread with exactly the same instructions and all non-bulldozer drivers was 12 minutes. So you can give instructions all you want, but some days there's just some people who are going to use their PlayStation skills to get through driving a bulldozer and use those skills to be better than someone who got exactly the same instructions, but is 12 minutes slower. So,
and they'd all be sending you hate tweets about, why did you spend so much time showing us how to do something if you did it the other way?
Look,
There's no pleasing these people.
Yeah.
What I've realized in life is it's a little bit like going to an ice cream store.
Yes.
And someone goes in and they say, I'll have a vanilla ice cream. I love vanilla ice cream. And then they leave the store, and then someone sees that person with the vanilla ice cream, goes, "Oh my God, I hate vanilla ice cream. I can't believe they sell vanilla ice cream in that store. I like chocolate." Like, now what are you meant to do? Get rid of all the vanilla ice cream to please the guy who likes chocolate and then get rid of the vanilla because the other person doesn't like chocolate? There's no pleasing everybody. And so I think you have to make choices and
You're so right,
and
Phil.
do your best.
Yes.
And then
Wise
ultimately I would say to people, if you're not happy with the amount of bulldozer instructions, how about you make your own TV show and make it all about tonight on how to drive a bulldozer. 1 hour of this goes forward, this goes back, this goes left, this goes right. Tonight on instructions, I don't know. Anyway, it's just, I find it fascinating.
Phil,
I think they have that show, actually.
Yeah.
I think that's on the Science Channel.
We get a lot of feedback in the podcast world.
Yeah, you know,
we get a lot of feedback.
Like I told you, my dad always says, easier to critique than to create. That's
my
I
motto,
live with that all the
actually.
time. What's that?
That's my motto. As someone whose job it is to talk about television on a podcast, it's really my personal motto.
Yeah, but you know, the thing is, you guys have created content out of critiquing content. So you're creating something from what you're critiquing. I'm talking about people that don't do anything with critiquing other than just pointing out what they think is wrong. Like, how easy is that? I can drive down the street and I can say, I don't like those pants that guy's wearing. Okay, great. Don't wear those pants then. I don't know. I mean, what are you meant to do with that?
So I want to completely change direction now.
Yes, let's do that. Let's change the pants and go, you know.
I mean, speaking
like
of
that
conformity, I don't like that direction. We're going to do something different. Speaking of conformity, let's go back to the sheep. And I want to know if, when this challenge was being designed, was it anticipated that the teams would work together in the way that they did? This was something that we were curious about before you came on. I thought it was really interesting that it was supposed to be 2 people working together, and it ended up being all 10 people working together. Did they sort of break the challenge in that regard?
So, coming from New Zealand, what I know about sheep is you don't stand in front of the sheep if you want it to come. You can't stand in front of a sheep if you want it to come towards you. You have to get behind the sheep and coerce them to go the opposite direction.
Rattle their dags, right?
Yes.
Rattle their dags. So this whole sheep thing, I've been fascinated with it for a long, long time. Going back to season 2 of Amazing Race, when I was helping to set up some shows in New Zealand for season 2, we went to my dad's college, one of my dad's college friends. When we went to his farm, and we had, if you remember, we had the teams rounding up sheep, and they had to do it where there was no crossover. A team of amazing racers had to herd the sheep or separate the sheep. It was separate the sheep, not herd the sheep. And with this, what I thought would be fascinating is sheep want to be together. So if you put 40 sheep together in a pen, in a bigger pen, they're all going to want to clump together. I was fascinated by this idea of, well, what happens when you have 5 pairs who now need 4 sheep each, and their goal as a pair is to get 4 sheep in a pen, but in order to do that, they have to work as a collective first. And in life, it was sort of, as Swifty said, he got it at the end. He's like, this was like an integrity challenge. This was like figuring out that sometimes you have to do something for the greater good of all before you can then get something for yourself. So I don't want to get too deep into it or anything, but I was sort of fascinated by the idea of, would they figure out that the first part of it was, okay, we've all got a common goal, let's help each other. And then the second part of it was, we're in a competition and we have to get our sheep in the pen before everybody else. So we didn't really know how it was going to go. So to answer your question, Jess, we set it up, but we didn't really know how it was going to actually break down once it happened. once they all got together.
I was impressed with the sheep. I didn't know sheep were that fast, and I didn't know that sheep could jump. I mean, I guess that I should how I go to sleep every night is a sheep jumping over a fence, but that I just to see it in real time. I was very impressed.
Yeah, sheep are they
Very
are quick
agile.
and look, this sounds crazy, but one of the first shows that I ever worked on as an assistant camera operator back in the mid 80s before you guys were born was it was a show called The Dog Show in New Zealand, and it was shepherds and their dogs, and they had these competitions where the shepherd and the dog would have to round up sheep. I think it was normally 6 sheep and put them in a pen. And it was on a Sunday night before a show that I used to do, which was a staple on one of the networks when I first started. Before I started as a host, I was doing being a camera assistant. And it was one of the most popular shows of the week. On a Sunday night, I think it played like 6 o'clock or something like that. And everybody would watch. And the way that it was covered was like the close-up of the eyes of the sheep, and then back to the herder, and then back to the dog, and then back to the sheep. And then the dog would step like this, and then the sheep would look, and then the herder would hold it, hold it, get him behind. And it was all of this all these signals and whistling and all of this stuff. And it was so entertaining, but it was always the battle of wills. And so that was the inspiration for this whole thing, was what happens when you get a whole bunch of city folk. I mean, I loved Sally walking around with a piece of twine.
Did you just grab a branch off a tree like a switch and was just trying to wave it around?
Yeah, and then all that, I called her a sheep whisperer at one point, and then Freight Train reaching down for a couple of pieces of dry grass, like that was going to entice them, and then Sarah trying to be like a shepherd's dog and doing the barking. I mean, it was hysterical. I think that was my favorite strategy personally. Not since Big Brother 19 have we seen barking on major CBS reality television. I did like them being like, well, the familiar voice, right? Do a dog. Surely the dog, hearing a
they
woof,
know
woof
dogs, sure,
will herd them back into the pen.
Familiar.
Yeah,
it's familiar. The question is whether it's liked.
Yeah.
Like we feel it's definitely familiar, but I'm not sure they really like the dog sound.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, a show about herding sheep being the most popular show on television is the most New Zealand thing I've ever heard.
Yes.
Okay. Well, no, but here's one even better. And I can't remember if I've told you this story. Did I tell you That's Fairly Interesting story? I might have, right?
I don't
think so.
Tell us again.
Okay. So in New Zealand, we're all about being understated. And we have this thing called the tall poppy syndrome. So if you imagine a field of poppies, if one poppy rises up, like a Peter Jackson rises up above in the field of poppies, then tall poppy syndrome is somebody comes along and goes clip and clips that tall poppy, and the top poppy falls down, and then everybody is equal and the same, and everybody's comfortable. So you never want to be a wanker, basically, be a skite, as we would say. And so everything has to be sort of underplayed. So if the All Black rugby team, our national team is called the All Blacks, if they win and they break a world record, then the captain's expected to say, it was nothing, got to hand it to the other team. They played really well. Meanwhile, the scoreline's like 100-0. Yeah. No, I know it was a world record. It's never been done before. Probably never will be done again. But, you got to hand it to the other team. They really came out here today to play. So you have to understate everything. So television producers in New Zealand back in the late 80s decide they're going to do a show that's the equivalent of That's Incredible. But we can't call it That's Incredible because New Zealand's allowed to be incredible. They can be okay, but they can't be incredible. So instead of calling the show That's Incredible, they called it That's Fairly Interesting. And that was the name of the show. And I happen to have been a host on that show called That's Fairly Interesting. So when we would show the most interesting things on the planet, a guy who built a house out of beer bottles, or someone who was breaking a world record, it would always end with, "That's fairly interesting." And that is a true story.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I can't wait for the New Zealand version. Ripley's. Yeah, you can believe it if you want to, I guess.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, you can believe it if you want to. Not really that impressive, but
It's up to you.
but I think that sort of I mean, we're getting better at acknowledging success and celebrating success. But at the end of the day, the more understated you are, the better. You want to be, you just got to be like, no matter whether you're Peter Jackson or Sam Neill, you just got to be like everybody else, and then you'll be fine.
Yeah.
That explains so much about the philosophical approach to Tough as Nails as well, because you really are like, one person gets to win at the end, but everybody else gets to keep winning along the way.
Yeah, I mean, we don't get me wrong. We're hyper competitive. Like our national rugby team is the winningest sports team in history. We have a higher percentage rate of winning than any other team in sports history. And against teams like Australia, I think we're somewhere around 80%, against England in the high 80s. Like the national rugby team does not lose. And so we're very competitive. But it's just that those people who are amazing at what they do also have to play like they're just like everybody else.
Yeah.
And then we all feel comfortable with that.
But Phil, you don't bring that to the show as the host, because one of the things that I was noticing last night is that you really talk up all of the players that are on the show. Like I was thinking, like, boy, it must be so great just to have like Phil in your daily life, where you're just like, look at Sarah work. She loves hard work. She's doing such a great job. Like, boy, those positive affirmations that you give the contestants while they're out there. That must really motivate them.
I like the idea of like accentuating what's good and what people do. I love it. I mean, I get pumped. I feel like it's like being on the sidelines of a basketball game, like a big NBA game at Madison Square Garden, and I'm allowed to yell out to the players, talk to them as they're going. I could yell out to Steph Curry and tell him, "Steph, you're playing great today. That's a great job. That's a great shot. Oh, what another great shot there." It's like, so, I mean, it's kind of fun to drill in. And I love these characters. I mean, I fall in love with them. I don't know. I just feel like make me feel warm and fuzzy inside when I think about them. And, And so, yeah, I want to pump them up. I want them to be the best they can be. I want them, I tell them at the beginning that they're all going to fall in love with each other as well. And they do. And season 1 contestants are still talking to each other. And now they've connected with season 2 people. And I love the chats in the van. I love the fact that they find common ground and they bond together. It's kind of satisfying to see.
Can I ask, going back to the sheep, I do find it interesting that you've now, every other episode, have done some sort of challenge with animal handling, animal husbandry, as we would say on the podcast. Is this like something purposeful? Are we going to see more creature comforts over the course of the season, or is that just purely coincidental?
Coincidental. Yeah, completely coincidental. I'm not sure there'll be any other animal husbandry in the near future, Michael, in Tough as Nails, on Tough as Nails.
Okay.
Darn.
My kids will be disappointed.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Next week is going to be something really different for us. We're going to a stadium, and it's kind of epic. It's fun. It's quite different from anything we've done. It's big and different, just really different from anything we've done. Out of the dust and the dirt and the grime into the heart of Los Angeles at the LAFC, and very different.
Well, I think you've conditioned us to think a certain way, Phil, because the first thing I thought of when I saw that stadium was, I bet they had an easy time finding something that could satisfy their parking needs in the current climate. Like, that's got a big parking lot. They could distance in there. That's going to be easy. There's enough bathrooms.
Yes, it was. That was one of our more one of our easier COVID friendly shooting locations. That plan was great, and you're absolutely right. We made use of, and the fact that we had to do this plan because of COVID, and then because of COVID, there was more space, made it a lot easier. So we wanted to do more urban things, but there were just some urban things that were just out of the question because we literally couldn't find space in a congested urban environment. So we did our best. You'll see some stuff that is in the city, but it definitely hindered some of our options. Like, it's too tight a space. But yes, at the stadium, we were not. We were spoiled for space.
So going to the farm, this really was, it's the construction site a bit, but this felt for me really like the first time you went back to a location that was really, detailed from the previous season as well. Were there thoughts about let's, reprise some of the challenges we did at the farm last time? Because I do think that the 3 challenges from this past episode were also incredibly varied. I would not think, okay, we're going to the farm, let's learn how to make horseshoes.
Right. Yeah. Part of the going back to that other location was also just because we knew the location. And when you're, during COVID times to test, everybody's got to get tested to be able to go to a location. So it restricted our ability to scout. We didn't have the same scouting options. Season 1, it was a free for all, right? Like, hey, Thursday afternoon, let's drive down to Long Beach and go scout that thing. Yeah, okay, I'll call so-and-so and we'll go down there after, the end of the day or whatever. Like there's no restrictions. Now it's like, all right, we want to go down and scout in Long Beach. Okay, where's the location? Where are you going to park? Who's going down? Okay, we'll need to get you tested. And this is all before we all went into lockdown and quarantine. So when I say it was hard shooting, it's not easy. It's everything becomes has a whole other layer of it's just everything becomes way more structured. So that a lot of that location there, that choice was literally just like, we know the location, we know where to park people, we know we can separate people, we know where to put people for lunch. I don't want to get too much behind the scenes, but that's the reality of it,
Phil, can we ask you about going back to last week? Is there anything else that you could tell us about Mikey Eyebrows? That's been a big question that a lot of the fans have had about what happened. We know that he left the show, but is there anything else that you could tell us about what happened?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's very important for us to have a respectful environment on the set. That's a priority for us, and we do have some zero tolerance rules, and behind the scenes, he unfortunately broke one of those rules, and that's why he's not competing on the show anymore. That's really it.
When something unconventional like that happens, I mean, was there a choice as to how forthcoming you would be on the show proper about that type of stuff, as opposed to, obviously it's like apples and oranges with Tara, who we saw her injury. She talks through it. You even say at the end of that episode, we'll have medical check it out. When you get another unconventional type of situation like that, was there talk about how do we approach, communicating this to the viewers?
Yeah, I mean, I think we made the decision that we were going to just inform the audience that he was off the show. Things are moving very, very quickly. And when I say zero tolerance for some things, there's just not a question, right? Like you cross that line, that's it. There's no makeup. That's what it is. So, everything is explained to all the contestants. All the rules are explained to them. They know there's no surprises. I think the positive part of it all is the strength of the format allowed us to pick up the pieces and roll very quickly into 5 against 5. And because of the strength of the characters, we were able to pick up and move forward. Life is unpredictable, right? Like it's life is unpredictable, and I think you've just got to forge forward. And I applaud the cast and everybody for just picking up and moving forward.
Mhm.
And, I can promise you a great rest of the season. And I was very impressed with how the cast moved forward, because both of them lost a teammate.
Yeah.
Well, I was curious, what would have happened if only one of the teams had lost a teammate? What if it's 6 and 5? How do you adjust for that?
Well, that's a really good question. And I mean, it just so happened that the numbers worked in our favor. Chances are, like, we could be at season 32 and something like this would never happen again. So
Mhm.
I don't know how we would cover every variable, but we would have found a way, and we would have also worked it out with the rest of the cast so that they all felt it was fair. That's fairness, and fairness is hugely important to us. And we're constantly checking with the cast about when they get briefed with rules on, not just the rules about being on the show, but the rules of each challenge that they, we ask them, all of them individually, do you understand? Do you know how to use this piece of equipment? Like with the bulldozer thing, with the guy, going back to the guy. Nobody, if anybody had said, I need more instruction on how the bulldozer works, or I don't know what you mean when you say that lever makes it go forward or back, we would make sure, short of putting them in there and giving them 10,000 hours of experience, where, everybody good? Like, everybody got it? So we don't, for instance, even just with briefing the cast, you don't like have half of them going to the bathroom and then half of them are getting an extra briefing or something. They're all together. It's, you do your best to make the competition as fair as possible. There's real money on the line. And so we want them to feel that when that winner stands there, like Murph did, that person in everybody's eyes is deserving of being the winner. And the same with the team competition, that there's no argument or there's no resentment. Everybody is like going to be, like that's the right person that won, or that's the right team that won. It's important to us.
Phil, can I ask you about the one of the editing choices of that there was a music cue in this episode, which was unlike anything that we've had before on Toughest
Was it with the sheep and the eyes?
Yeah,
and
like the Victrola song.
Yes.
It was my favorite cue. I asked if we had more of it because I wanted more of it. I wanted it to go deeper into the challenge, and apparently it was just one little piece on the front of a music cue. But I loved it. It was an editor's choice. They found it, they used it. I was like, damn, I love that. That's so cool. So it's kind of stood out a little bit like the Spec Mix music, and
yes,
I loved
favorite.
It. Yeah, it was a great moment.
Yeah, we have Spec Mix and Sheep Mix. Those are the two big major musical cues on Tough as Nails so far.
And also, Phil, you also went very hard on this line.
It's gonna be a sheep show.
How many different takes did you do?
There was one take, but they give me a hard time on the show for throwing in a few bad jokes. And but listen, by the way, it was Freight Train who came in with that the first bad joke. And look, it wouldn't be. I just love silly things like that. Quite frankly, I wasn't sure whether it was going to pass the standards and practices. They were going to say, you can't say that, but it's kind of fun.
It would have been interesting if instead of a sheep show, it was a bleep show. I think that would have drawn many more blanks, quite literally, with the crowd as to what they could fill in there.
It's going to be a bleep show. I guess I'm going to save that one for the show that has an inordinate amount of cursing.
Yeah,
we'll call that the bleep show.
Well, I feel like if you are tough as nails, you should also be able to. You should be as profane as nails. I think most of the time.
That's very true.
I've been to a construction site. I know how they talk.
Yeah, well, this is very true, and you do wonder whether there'll be a day where it'll just be a free for all, like we still have this thing on network television where you don't swear, but of course, people are swearing and we have to get them to dial back. But, there are people who don't like profanity. I respect that. So
Yeah.
We'll stick with that.
Phil, I also like that you brought a lot of like concerned dad energy to the overtime when Angel was smithing and Angel, please slow down.
Where do you think we live in a barn? Close the forge.
Yeah, you're going.
Just be careful with the forge. Yeah, well, I mean, in all seriousness, I was trying to dude, you got to you're working with some hot materials, and we don't we don't want an injury. So take your time, think about what you're doing, and Freight Train had the right approach, and he was cool, calm, and collected. He waited for the metal to get to the right temperature. He did his thing methodically, and it was quite a different challenge, quite different.
Does anybody else have anything for Phil this week?
No, I think we are good. We mentioned this before, Phil, but Rob and I earlier on in the week simulated a Survivor season with all of the CBS and Viacom stars that were part of the Super Bowl commercials. And we were so disappointed that we didn't see a Phil Keoghan hiking up Mount Paramount to show that he truly was tough as nails that could summit the mountain.
Yes, I have had a few... I've had a few people ask me why I wasn't the world traveler and it was James Corden. But I don't know what happened there. I don't know. Maybe there's something, I don't know. Maybe I'm getting voted off the top of the mountain. Maybe I got to the top and then skied off or got pushed off or paraglided off, or maybe I was buried in the snow, or I don't know. No, I didn't get invited to the mountain. But maybe one day I will. It might be that's a personal goal of mine, to be invited to the Paramount Mountain.
Yes.
Paramount.
So could you pitch what you would be doing in the Paramount Mountain commercials?
Well, I would have loved to have ridden that Skidoo.
Alongside Dora the Explorer.
I would have pushed James Corden off that thing and be like, dude, I'm the world traveler. Get off that thing. Go back to your studio.
We want a James Corden, Phil Keoghan rivalry. What we need.
I would have said, James, you can jump on the back, but I'm driving this thing. No, I don't know. Maybe it was just as well. I understand that they were, they shot it like in 3 countries and people were all over the world. And, but yeah, it was a big to-do. I don't know. I think we're still part of the content. We're just not part of the promotion.
Yes,
that is my understanding.
I watched Tough as Nails on Paramount Plus this morning.
Oh, you do? Okay.
As did I.
Yeah.
So we're in, but we're just not in the commercial. That's all.
You still have to, when you go to the app, you still have to search for it. It does not come up on your home screen.
Oh, it doesn't?
That's the next goal, is get on the home screen. I know what happened though, Phil. It was that when you were about to summit Mount Paramount, you brought a horseshoe with you, but it was upside down, so all the luck fell out.
Yeah, there you go.
And so that's why.
That's what happened. Yeah. All my luck fell out.
You know what I think it might have been? That you had the work whistle, but it's so loud they were afraid of an avalanche.
And heavy. It's very heavy. If I just had a torch, I could have led the way up the mountain. But no, I had to take my work whistle, and as a result, I was still back at the beginning and got left in a pile of snow.
Hey, on a related note, I noticed that they were nobody's even pretending that you're blowing the work whistle anymore. They just showed you like pointing to people and telling them to go without even blowing the work whistle.
Well, there is a whistle sound. It's just,
I know.
Yeah.
But luckily you're not blowing out your eardrums this time by standing right next to it.
Yeah, it might have been. That's probably what it is. You're probably right. They didn't want me to bring that work whistle because it would have interfered with the sound when they were shooting the commercial.
Would have caused an avalanche for sure.
Yeah. That's what it is. Yeah. I would have started an avalanche and it would have come down the Paramountain.
Taking out all the stars of Paramount.
Is it the Paramountain? Is it Paramount?
It should have been.
It should have been.
It should have been.
The Paramountain. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, maybe next time I'll say, listen, if you climb the Paramountain again, I'd love to join you.
Yeah. Or maybe you could have been like in your hosting Tough as Nails duties of look at Beavis and Butthead climbing up the mountain. They love hiking. They're travelers.
That's a great idea. I would have been on the top. I can be on the top of the mountain and I go, here comes Jeff Probst. He's got the torch. He's going to make it first. And right behind him, world traveler James Corden. He's coming right up. He's left the skidoo. Who will make it to the top first? What are you going into overtime?
And stallion.
I like where you guys are going. I think it would have been a more exciting campaign.
Yeah, I think so. Round 2.
Dessert, please.
Yes.
I'm ordering dessert. I'm bugging out of here.
Great. All right, Phil, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to talk with you. And have a great week.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Thanks, Phil.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Hey, wait. He didn't pay the check this time.
Wait, hold on.
Oh, no.
Wait.
He paid in horseshoes.
Yeah. All right.
They're not going to take that. Yeah.
Okay. He's got a wad of cash that it's just
That's
like,
true.
hey, here's $12,000.
Did we ever ascertain whether that's real money?
It looked real. I don't know. To my untrained eye.
Someone go to the ATM beforehand and just grab a stack of hundreds for the day.
I don't know. It looked good. Looked good though. Okay. I also thought that this is Freight Train. He's like, this is my family. I have and he had at least a 4x6. It's like I carry it with me everywhere. Like
the
what
headshot you
mountain?
put that it's a
Is it
celebrity
covered
headshot.
in slime, eel slime, and I feel like he went in the ocean.
I think he mentioned he has one with him at every turn, so I think he's got a stack of them.
Did he bring a stack?
Yeah, he's got a stack
every day.
Different one every day. It's
Freight Train literally carrying his family on his ass.
Mm-hmm. I also like Freight Train's shirt. I don't know if we've mentioned Freight Train's polo, which says "delivery guy" on it.
Well, they did that last season too. Like anytime you worked for a company with a logo, they would just change the logo to say what you did for a living.
Oh, I love that. That's like the generic Halloween costume, right?
Yes.
It's like you are brown shirt delivery man for Halloween.
Yes.
Yeah, they could have got him a Freight Train polo shirt.
Yeah, I don't know why they have to have a logo on there. Like, maybe you know what it means.
Instagram, maybe you can get the licensed Freight Train polo. All right. Anything else? Tough as Nails, episode 4.
I don't think so. I am excited to go into the city next week.
City.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I am more comfortable. Personally, I'm not a Selly. I am more of an Arida. It looks like, again, we're going to Amazing Race-esque tasks. It looks like they're searching in the stadium to find things.
Are they going to run up and down the stairs like Desmond, Mike?
Oh, yeah. They're going to do their, what is it, the triage or whatever.
Another life, brother.
Yeah. That's how you would start another race around the world to link with another Phil Keoghan show. Maybe it's you meet up with a friendly doctor who twisted his ankle and patch it up and give him some friendly life advice before you meet up 3 years from now. I'm not sure. It's going to be an interesting location because I wonder what professions we're going to focus on as well. Stadium workers?
Well, sure. There's going to be a point where I'll have to stop what they're doing. They're going to go groom the field, and then they have to stop what they're doing and do the YMCA.
Yeah, they're going to do is the overtime going to be run around the bases in mascot costumes?
Is AJ Mass going to be in that episode?
If it took place in New York, yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's next time on Tough as Nails. Believe it or not, they'll be halfway through. That's fairly interesting. It'll be the 5th episode of the season, halfway through season 2 of Tough as Nails. Okay, we'll be back next week to talk about it and have some more fun talking about Tough as Nails. Jess, what else do you have going on?
Over on Post Show Recaps, Chappelle and I are covering the final 6 episodes of season 10 of The Walking Dead.
Yes.
And Robert, you and I need to coordinate because I want you to watch the next one and
is this it? Is season 10 it, or is this
no?
They're gonna do season 11.
One more season 11, one painfully dragged out season 11 spanning 2 years.
Oh my God.
Finish line's not here yet.
Yes.
But
yes.
It's in sight.
Yes.
So we are covering the final 6 episodes of season 10 of The Walking Dead. And then Chappelle and I also got together. If you are a patron of Post Show Recaps, you'll be able to hear us this weekend talk about the 1998 cinematic classic Can't Hardly Wait.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. Seth Green at his most cringy, arguably.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's such a cringy movie on so many levels. And we had a lot to unpack, but we had a really good time talking about it.
Yes. All right. That's sounds like a lot of fun. I'm gonna check that one out. Mike, we talked about our Paramount Mountain Brant Steele. Of course, you
I
can check
can't
that
believe you
out.
guys mentioned that to Phil. Like, don't tell
We
Phil
wanted
about
to know where he was, Jess.
he likes silly things. He doesn't like completely ridiculous things.
I don't know. We haven't. We're constantly
We-
pushing that line.
For the record, yeah. Did we mention the simulation to Phil? I don't think that was.
No, that's the thing. You don't couch it by saying, well, we put a
just
bunch
talked
of them
about
in a simulation.
Yeah, Jess. So that we were very like coy about that. We
Be
just
cool,
talked about the
guys.
commercial. We didn't
Yeah,
mention that we
But
did.
yeah,
a
so many
Survivor
people
simulation.
from CBS and Viacom, including Phil's new ops, James Corden, got together to play a Survivor season. It was, I'm going to quote Rob here and saying this might be one of the best ones that we have done. The season is dramatic AF, so be sure to check that out. Additionally, I know the Big Brother Canada season has already begun, but if you're in for a little bit of a preseason taste, I got together with Taryn Armstrong, Liana Boris, and Jenny Autumn to do a Big Brother Canada think tank, where before the season we went through a bunch of listener submitted ideas for possible twists that the game can bring in. I'll also pick
I
up
loved it. I loved it, Mike.
Oh, thank you.
It was a great panel.
We
So
got
much
to learn
fun.
we got to learn a lot about, what makes a good twist. We got to learn a bit about Canadian culture and all of its interesting terms that they use in children's shows sometimes. So it was really educational.
Look at Mike go. He loves to podcast.
Thank
There
you.
goes Mike to the tickle trunk.
Exactly. A fairly interesting trip to the tickle trunk for the four of us at the Big Brother Canada think tank. And then over on post-show recaps, I'll pick up where Jess left off, because the week before Jess and Chappelle got together, myself and Liana Boris got together to talk about the inimitable classic 2009 film Paul Blart Mall Cop on post-show recaps theater, which was a hoot and a half. Maybe Tough as Nails season 3, they'll go inside a mall and do challenges about mall security, because that is truly a Tough as Nails job, as Paul Blart indicated.
Yeah.
And then over on post show recaps proper, we're doing coverage of Down the Hatch with Lost, the Bloom Files. We're doing some X-Files stuff, getting into a rather clone-filled two-parter coming up this weekend. And I'm very excited to announce that I'm going to be joining Everything is Super for the upcoming series of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So it's going to be me, Kevin Mahadeo, and LaTanya Starks. Josh Wigler is passing the shield down to me. So we're going to do a preview show to see if that shield fits, and then we're going to jump into the action proper moving forward. But there's lots of great stuff going on post-show recaps, as well as RHAP proper. And I'm sure more silliness to come, only some of which we will actually describe to Phil Keoghan on this podcast.
Yes.
Cool, guys.
Of course, we mentioned the Brant Steele. Also this week, I got together with Mike's co-host on the B&B, Liana Boris, and Phil T, to talk about the 32nd best season of Survivor, according to the fans of Rob as a Podcast, Survivor Ghost Island. I'll tell you why I actually thought it played a lot better on a binge. So we'll talk about that and everything else from Survivor Ghost Island. Plus, all of our Big Brother Canada coverage is back. Taryn Armstrong is going to be live again on Thursday night. Already had a recap on Wednesday night with Melissa Denny and Asia Welch on Wednesday to talk about the Big Brother Canada premiere. We will have episodes live after every episode of Big Brother Canada. And then on Monday night, I get back to hosting a Big Brother Canada recap. Monday nights, I will be live after the episode to talk about everything that's going on over on Big Brother Canada. That and much more, all at robhasawebsite.com. Of course, this weekend, I will be back with our patron feedback show to talk about all of your listener questions from Survivor Ghost Island with Will from America. You could get that and everything else we're doing over on our patron feed at robhasawebsite.com/patron. Thank you so much for listening. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.